Hello, Patreon people. It is I, Professor Moptop, once again. Welcome to another week here at Beetle University. Thank you a million times over for all of your support and patience and everything that you do. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. This week we're going to be talking about two Beatles songs from 1967. The first is the Magical Mystery Tour, which was recorded in 1967, right after Sgt. Pepper, but right before All You Need Is Love in that Summer of Love period. Here comes Honey Pie. There goes Honey Pie. As soon as Pepper was done, they were immediately talking about what they were going to do next, and their plan was to make their own film. They had some pretty good success with the first two films, A Hard Day's Night and Help, so they figured they should make their own. Paul McCartney was remembering when they were young, there would be a bunch of, as he put it, old deers with blue rinse in their head who would go on these mystery tours. They would get picked up, they would have a bunch of beer, or ale, as Paul called it, and they wouldn't know where they were going. They would drive around, sing songs, have fun, get to their event, have a day, come home, drink more beer, sing more songs on the ride home. Paul McCartney was very interested in this, and he was interested in Ken Kesey, who was a guy in San Francisco who would get people, as the merry pranksters, would get on a bus and they would take acid and go to a musical event. So Paul decided that a magical mystery tour would be something of the two of them. A drug trip, which of course is a mystery because you don't know how it's going to turn out. They started recording it in April of 67. The traffic noise that we hear at the beginning of the song is once again recorded by our good friend Stuart Eltham, who is the EMI sound designer. He recorded a couple of buses going under a bridge on a Sunday morning by hanging microphones over the side of the bridge, and there wasn't a lot of traffic. Just buses. Thank you, Stuart Eltham. He was invaluable to the Beatles. They talked about the film in great detail as they recorded the first version of the song, with Paul on piano, John playing the harmonica, and Ringo on the drums. Then they added some background vocals. Then they added shakers and bangers and a whole bunch of other different noisemakers. Then Paul added his lead vocals, and Paul, John, and George added the roll up, roll up. Then there were some trumpets overdubbed. Now, the trumpet overdub was done by a few different guys, one of which is a guy named Dave Mason, not the same guy from the band Traffic, but a session trumpet player. He's the guy who played on Penny Lane. He was around for the Day in the Life sessions. He was there for All You Need Is Love, and he plays on the Magical Mystery Tour title track. So Dave Mason plays on 4 Beatles songs, which I find to be very, very cool. Paul McCartney also said that roll up is referred to as a joint, which you would roll up, and you would also get ready, as in the bus is rolling up. And he says that the Dying to Take You Away is from the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which is about dying. The second song you're going to hear about this week is Fool on the Hill, which is another character from a Beatles song. It's vague and non-specific. We're not really sure why the fool is being maligned by all of these different people who tell him he's wrong, but Paul said that he did have a Maharishi figure in mind, and of course Maharishi wasn't always, not everyone believed him to be on the level. At the time the Beatles did, they would later come to also think perhaps he was a fool. Paul played the song for the other Beatles, and John told him to make sure he write it down so you don't forget it. Well, that's what Paul did, because he said he wouldn't forget it, but he wrote it down anyway. There's a studio demo, which is all Paul McCartney, and then after he played it for all the other Beatles, they worked on it in the studio with Paul on piano, John on harmonica, guitar, and Ringo on the drums. Then they overdubbed more drums and Paul on the recorder. Ultimately, the recorder would be replaced with 4 flautists who would overdub flutes on the session. The lyrics were a bit different as they were recording it. Paul mentions the man with the empty eyes at one point. Some of the overdubs included several drums, several acoustic guitars, and a couple of different pianos. When Paul recorded his lead vocal for the song, it wasn't done until 4 in the morning. In just a few short years, the Beatles changed the way the studio was used. When they first were recording their very first stuff, things had to be closed at 10 o'clock at night, and a couple of times they went a little bit late. As the Beatles got more important and made more money for the company, they were allowed to stay later and later. Eventually, they got to the point that they pretty much had full reign of the studio. As always, thank you a million times over. Be sure to check your WeTransfer and get your audio of the week. Until next week, thank you as always. I am Professor Moptop.